Blue Apron is the leading meal kit delivery service in the U.S., and while many know what they do, not many know about the types of meals you eat when you cook with Blue Apron. Now tell me how these sound. Chili butter steaks with lemon parmesan butter and potatoes. Vegetable lo mein with bok choy and carrots. Spicy shrimp bucatini with cabbage and toasted breadcrumbs. Roasted chicken and maple butter with sweet mashed potato and collard greens. Blue Apron delivers fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and step-by-step recipes right to your door. They can be cooked in under 45 minutes. The menu changes every week based on what's in season and is designed by Blue Apron's in-house culinary team. Blue Apron offers 12 new recipes each week. Customers can pick 2, 3, 4 recipes based on what best fits their schedules. And Blue Apron sends only non-GMO ingredients and meat without added hormones. Blue Apron is treating our listeners on the right time to their first 3 meals free. A $30 value when you first order if you visit blueapron.com/Bomani. So check out this week's new menu and get your $30 off with free shipping at blueapron.com/Bomani. Blue Apron, a better way to cook.
Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
So yesterday I was out, it was about the 1 o'clock hour. I'm going somewhere to watch some football. And I got a text that was like, you see this thing about Jerry Richardson? And I'm like, nah, send me a link on Jerry Richardson. And I get the Sports Illustrated story about Jerry Richardson. And I'm like, whoa, like this broke right around kickoff? So imagine that, Jerry Richardson at the game in his suite, whatever it is. And Sports Illustrated has dropped a bombshell report on him that talks about, among other things, 4 former Panthers employees who got confidential settlements based on inappropriate things that had happened at the workplace. It talked about a racial slur that had been directed at one African-American scout from the Panthers. And then they talked about, what was it, Jeans Day on Friday, where everyone would wear jeans to the office, and Jerry Richardson would come and make comments to women based on the jeans that they had. Shannon, what was that? Was it Mr., right? Everybody calls him Mr.?
An organization refer to him as Mr. Yeah.
Not Mr. Richardson, to be clear, right? Just Mr., like the color purple. Well, not exactly like the color purple, but like the color purple. They just call him Mr. Like it sounds like this wild, antiquated sort of workplace. Then there were more details, like the idea that they said allegedly Richardson would have an assistant like walk a woman to his suite, and then he would get there and say things to him like, you know, I would love to shave your legs. Like, you would love to shave their legs? Like that's what we're doing here, right? So all of this happens after the game. Jerry Richardson puts out a statement saying that he will in fact be selling the team, but the statement of course made no level of apology for any of the allegations that were there in the report. So if you were wondering when what's happening all over the rest of the world would get a little bit closer to sports, this is the moment where it has happened, right? Like it gets to an NFL team owner. I don't think there's anybody at this point who can be surprised to hear about any sector of life where this sort of thing comes to, because this thing comes to kind of just like attitudes men have toward women, and they're pretty pervasive everywhere. But now this has come to a place where, like on the airwaves here and stuff like that, we wind up talking about it. I want to know who got Jerry Richardson on the phone that afternoon and was like, hey, we got this statement right here about how you're going to sell this team. Because you have to say today that you are going to sell this team. And shortly after that, you are probably going to need to say that you are not going to be involved in the day-to-day for this. And here's the reason. The NFL has said right now that they are going the Panthers had an internal investigation that was going on about Richardson. The NFL then took over that internal investigation as it has gone on. And I would imagine that the NFL would love nothing more than for Jerry Richardson to be long gone by the time the details of that investigation become clear. Or they would just like this to move fast enough that by the time they probably should have had an investigation, you might have forgot about it and moved on to something else, because at that moment, they don't have to reckon with it. And the reckoning part of it as it comes to the NFL, and where this gets to be interesting, is what you do here effectively becomes the template if you have to do something else with some other team. You see what I mean? So dealing with this and whatever comes down, you got to deal with it, But you've got to keep in mind that whatever happens somewhere else that comes up is going to wind up having to be dealt with also. Now, for the NFL, 32 owners, right? I am not in a position here to say anything about how the owners get down on this. The Richardson story winds up being kind of two-pronged, because one thing I noticed, and Shannon, you tell me if you noticed this in the mentions, like on the Twitter mentions, because I noticed this. I had people who hit me up saying they wanted to talk about Jerry Richardson and the matters of gender involved. And then I had people hit me up and say they wanted to talk about Jerry Richardson as the racist owner. It was almost like a ink blot test, right? Of what people focus on. Like, did you notice that split?
Absolutely. It seemed weird because it seemed like folks wanted to focus on one or the other.
Right. But see, for the NFL, now you got both. Right? So if you have someone who feels they have been treated improperly at the workplace on the basis of race, then this is going to become the template for how that gets dealt with. If you had these issues of sexual harassment, then this becomes the template of how to be dealt with. And who are the people who are going to ultimately be behind determining what the course of action is on this? The other owners. Now, to a degree, we are asking those other owners, at least some of them, one might presume, to pick their own switch. Right? Because whatever happens to the Panthers, if you are in a similar situation, then that's going to come down on you, wherever it is. You remember when, with Donald Sterling, when the NBA ran Donald Sterling out of there. And remember, they ran Donald Sterling out of there for something very, very particular, right? What those statements were that he got caught saying to the woman that then got broadcast. They didn't get him for like the overall culture. Keeping in mind, there have been allegations that Donald Sterling was bringing people to watch the dude shower. And all the things that Sterling had been alleged to have said at all these different points. They didn't get him for that. They got him for that one particular thing. And getting him for that one particular thing kind of made it easy for him to a degree because you couldn't go and look at every other team and see how they get down and then say, okay, this is what we're going to do. They were like, no, we're getting you for this one thing. If they're going to get the Panthers or Richardson, whoever it is, for the larger culture that's there, then all these teams understand that their cultures are open doors for the league if they want to give some level of punishment. So then if you are the owners, how do you decide what this punishment is? You're picking your own, like I say, they get to pick their own switch. How are they going to do it? But, is it Mark Cuban? You remember Mark Cuban did that interview where he was trying to explain that all of us have our impulses on, like he said, if I see a white dude with a face full of tattoos or a black kid with a hoodie, I'm going to be scared either way. And we need to understand and have a dialogue and a conversation or anything. That was one of those, because he was like, no, we shouldn't take Donald Sterling's team. Because he's like, hey, man, you never know when that mirror, at least it felt like, you never know when that's going to spin back around, and you never know when it's going to hit you. So what's the NFL going to do? In the end with this, what are they going to do? Not sure. I'd also like to point out something else that's very interesting. Shannon, did you notice this? It doesn't seem like anybody was able to get a microphone in Jerry Richardson's face or any other suit's face, so they had to come talk to the rank and file. Football players and the coach.
And I can imagine that's probably the last thing that Ron Rivera wanted to talk about.
Well, also think about it from this standpoint too, right? So, like, all companies have their public relations wings or whatever, right? And you send the publicists out to take the bullets for everybody. That's not what happens in sports. We send the players and we send the coaches out there to talk about these things. And what does that mean when we talk about the Carolina Panthers? That's right. We need to get an answer from Cam Newton. Now, I imagine that there had to be some public relations person with the Panthers whose job it was to try to get, like, Cam, like, what we're going to try to do. But also, Shannon, what do you do if you're the public relations person? Because as of right now, you still work for Jerry Richardson. Right?
At the same time, I'd imagine that you give Cam the heads up and try to keep it as vague as possible.
Yeah, but also keep in mind, this happened on game day. Right? So it's not like they had all night to send Cam home with some flashcards or something to think about this or whatever. No, they're catching him after the game wearing that ridiculous hat and those shades. Like, nobody told him, hey, Cam, we're going to have to talk about some serious stuff, man. You might want to take that Aladdin hat off there. Nope. He's up there with the Aladdin hat. Didn't he have some, like, funny looking glasses, like could have been like from Tom Petty Into the Great Wide Open video? They had like a tint to him. But anyway, there's Cam. He was up there, and you could tell as he started talking, like, man, I hope I don't mess this up. Play the first one.
I heard about it, but I haven't, really dug into it. And I just recently, seen the internal investigation about all that. But, one thing about it, man, Mr. Richardson has been an unbelievable source in my life. I can't really speak on nobody else, but I have conversations because in my life, it's hard for me to kind of talk to certain people with them not being able to understand where I'm coming from. And I found a place of a refuge, with Mr. Richardson.
Shannon, I want to know what exactly it is that he and Jerry Richardson are like right here on, where the only person he feel like he could talk to about some of these things is Jerry Richardson.
Like, Mr. Richardson, you see that episode of Atlanta last night?
Right. Well, when his character just come in there and be like, you know what I love? A big sumptuous biscuit from Hardee's. Right? Like, I can't imagine the Cam's just up there like, what am I supposed to do right now? Right? Because I just got off work. Like, what am I supposed to say about Jerry Richardson right now? And hold on, he had more.
That's very serious. That's something extremely serious right now, especially where you see so many people getting picked out because of the things that they've done in the past. So, I don't take that lightly. I was just telling you my personal experiences with Mr. Richardson and how he has had such a father-like role to a lot of players in that locker room that's present and past. So, for me, I hope things doesn't alter my thinking of Mr. Richardson, but for what I do know, man, he's given me some things that I just will forever be appreciative for him.
I'd have gone with no comment. Like, I feel like for all y'all, no comment is probably the play. Like, I do think people have to be fair and appreciate the degree of impossibility in the situation. Your boss just got hemmed up in like super duper scandal. What exactly are you supposed to say about that right now in front of all these people? Shannon, Thomas Davis was like, well, Mr. Richardson always been good to me. Well, damn, they just fired the general manager a little while ago because he wasn't being nice enough to you because Jerry Richardson did not like it. Like, yeah, that's probably what he's going to wind up saying. Meanwhile, Jerry Richardson is just like, man, let me just try to get out of here right fast before y'all stop and think about, you were at work asking women if you could shave their legs. And every other trick that was in the book. And now we'll see how this one plays. How about that?
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Just one thing, by the way, to mention about Jerry Richardson. One thing that's kind of been lost in the whole time that Richardson has owned this team, it's kind of a wonder that they let him buy the team in the first place. Or, like this, some things weren't dealt with sooner. Don't forget, Jerry Richardson was the CEO of the company that ran Denny's when Denny's caught their discrimination suit in the 1990s. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with that, but are familiar with the Jay-Z catalog, Never Eat at Denny's but Party at Little Penny's, that is what he was talking about in that one. It's to a degree a wonder that he got here. So at least on the basis of allegations of like workplace racism, there's not that much of a surprise there, given that the man had run a company that had already dealt with one of those. The stuff, though, as it related to dealing with women was staggering, though. It's just absolutely 100% staggering. And when this stuff comes up, I feel like a lot of men are just like, yo, I don't even know if I can say hello to a woman anymore. I would say, okay, well, maybe you don't know if you can say hello to a woman. That's fine. Maybe you're unaware of whether you can do that. But just in case you didn't know before, no, you cannot ask a woman if you can shave her legs. No, you're not allowed to ask women to show you their jeans so you can see how they fit at work and offer them foot massages and the likes. No, you can't do that. Just in case you were curious. I'm just trying to help. Did I do straight talk? Yes, cool. All right. Anyway, last night, because there was attention to be gotten, your man Diddy looked up and saw people talk about the Carolina Panthers are going to be for sale because Jerry Richardson is going to sell the Carolina Panthers. And, of course, that meant that Diddy said that he would think about buying the Carolina Panthers. And then that led to Diddy doing a video to express the fact that he would like to buy the Carolina Panthers. And it went like this.
Okay, y'all, this just in breaking news. The North Carolina Panthers.
Wait, press pause.
Okay?
Press
North
pause.
Carolina Panthers.
Did he say what I think he said?
Yes, the North Carolina Panthers, yes.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, y'all, this just in breaking news. The North Carolina Panthers, okay? North Carolina Panthers are up for sale. I believe it's time to turn the franchise over to new ownership. Well, I need to send a message out to everybody in the beautiful state of North Carolina. I will be the best NFL owner that you can imagine. I will immediately address the Colin Kaepernick situation. and put him in the running for next year's starting quarterback. It's just competition, baby. It's just competition. But also, I will have the best halftime show, the best selection of music, and we will win.
Okay, so here's the thing about the best halftime show. Shannon, you want to guess who will be the performer at the halftime show? Because I got to guess.
I know exactly who's going to be. If Diddy's involved, the halftime performer is Diddy.
Yes, it is Diddy. Perhaps hologram Biggie, but definitely Diddy is going to be the halftime performer. I also feel like he does not realize that if you want to curry the favor of Carolina Panthers fans, saying we bring Colin Kaepernick in when you got Cam Newton isn't the way to do it. Not so much because they love Cam Newton so much, but if they don't like Cam Newton that much, what the hell you think they're going to have to say about Colin Kaepernick? Although I would love to see, Shannon, the post-game videos of those two walking out in their gear after the game, with Cam Newton out here dressed like Willy Wonka and Colin Kaepernick out here wearing his Eldridge Cleaver suit. With Colin trying to pass these books over to Cam, like, look, man, you need to read The Wretches of the Earth. All right, can you imagine the locker room split that would develop if you had Cam and Kaepernick in there at the same time? Can you imagine that?
You saying it was just competition, baby. What does he think this is, the band?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, too. Like, you know, they actually have a thing. Like, and also, my first order of business is to bring Colin Kaepernick back. Diddy, this isn't how this works at all. The other part of it, though, Panthers would be signing the worst contracts ever. Like, what you mean I signed over all my publishing? I said, the Panthers would be the first team signed to dudes to 360 deals. Right. Oh, you get jerked like it's a record industry dude. All these cats will wind up getting jerked. The North Carolina Panthers. Is there anything more New York than having no concept of anything outside of New York in the way that he did, say, in the North Carolina Panthers? That's the most New York thing he possibly could have said. Because they are trying to figure out who it is that might buy this team. And an interesting question is going to be like what the valuation of the team is going to prove to be. Now, one point I want to make on Jerry Richardson, because I've heard people talk about this, and I think it's something to kind of consider. That I think when things like this happen, people want to see some measure of punishment. They want to see people suffer. Like, one thing about, I think, the social media and everything else is that it's kind of empowered people in such a way where they have at least the feeling that they have more control over the adjudication of these matters than they ever did before. So with somebody like Jerry Richardson, the same way it was with Donald Sterling, it's like, okay, now we got a chance to make this rich person pay. Except the problem is, in a circumstance like this, you can't really make the rich person pay, because the only way that you can make the rich person pay is to pay the rich person. So the idea that Jerry Richardson, who paid however many hundreds of millions of dollars for the team in the first place, might have to sell it for what Forbes valued the team at $2.3 billion, I believe it was. $2.3 billion. So they're like, oh, man, you're really punishing this old man by giving him $2.3 billion, except for the fact if he wanted that $2.3 billion, he'd have sold the team already. All right, like Jerry Richardson, Jonathan Jones of Sports Illustrated wrote a very good column about this, about the way that Jerry Richardson is so consumed with his own legacy. Like, that's the big thing to him, is his own legacy. This is a man that has two statues built of him while he's still alive, one in front of the stadium and one at Wofford College. He has his name all over the place. Like, he believes he is big into the weight of the Richardson name. He wants it to carry on for a very long time. And what is happening here is actually, for a guy like Jerry Richardson, maybe the worst thing that could happen. Because he really cares about what his legacy is in that way. Now, you could obviously make the easy argument that if he cared about his legacy, he wouldn't have done those things. Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I'm saying that having the name sullied bothers him. He never thought that stuff was ever going to be the thing to do it. But the idea of taking his team away from him, like with Donald Sterling's thing was he never wanted to sell anything. So forcing him to sell something was as close to a punishment as you were going to get. But the bottom line is, you ain't never going to really hurt rich people, right? Like that, like they got the whole game built up to even when they hurt, it don't hurt that bad.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. He covers the NFL at ProFootballTalk.com, works out of Charlotte. His name is Darren Gant. Now, Darren, we just saw that Jerry Richardson has given up the day-to-day operations of the Carolina Panthers after the Sports Illustrated report this weekend about the workplace and the environment for the Panthers. Are you surprised that he's walked away so easily without a fight?
Makes you wonder what else is in there, doesn't it?
Yeah, like that was, because I think this is a part that you could clarify is how important being the owner of the Carolina Panthers is to him.
Oh, it's central to he cares very much about his legacy and his place in the world. This is a man, I can tell you, Bo, I mean, I've sat in his house when he's taking calls. He enjoys the fact that powerful people call him Mister. He cares very deeply about how he's perceived, and running that team is central to what he's about and who he believes he is. And to give it up, I think it is. It's troubling, and it makes me wonder what else is to be uncovered. And, you know, to be honest with you, I think the sexual harassment allegations are very serious. I don't mean to diminish that in any way. And that got everybody's attention because of #MeToo. The racial stuff, I think, is probably as big or bigger reason that he's stepping away as quickly as he is, because that's a problem that hurts him on a day-to-day basis running that team. Because if you believe what's in that report from Sports Illustrated, and I've been given no reason to suggest that you shouldn't believe it, then I think it's reasonable for Julius Peppers to walk up there and say, "You think that about me?" Or for Thomas Davis to say, "You think that about me?" And you can't on a football team if that's going around.
Well, how aware, I guess, or were you surprised as someone who'd been around the organization with these allegations?
I'm not going to tell you I saw it, but I tell you what I did see over the last, 20 years being around this market and being around that team. He's an 81-year-old white man from the South. And he says things and he believes things based on a certain context that you only get being a white man from the South of a certain generation. And I think, a lot of the stuff that he has said in the past, and a lot of people, things they've talked about him, are probably in his mind innocent, or at least not malicious, and he just doesn't, he can't understand how it sounds to people who grew up in a different context, who grew up in a different time, or grew up in a different place, because, it's just a very old South way of thinking he has and has always had.
All right, talking to Darren Ganner, ProFootballTalk.com, here on The Right Time. So with Jerry Richardson out of the way, what do you think happens next?
They'll sell it. They'll find a billionaire who wants to buy the place and keep it in Charlotte, because Charlotte's a fairly groovy place to be. I mean, it ain't Miami, it ain't L.A., but it's certainly comfortable, and there's a lot of money here, and there's a lot of young money moving to town. So I think a lot of people locally are panicky about the possibility that it might move, especially after seeing an NBA team leave town before. But I just think if you look at the economics of the market, that's probably an unfounded concern. I mean, just look at what happened in Buffalo. The last team to sell was the Bills. They were lined up around the corner to pay $1.4 billion for a team in Western New York with one of the worst stadiums in the NFL. So what's this place worth? I would think it's pretty valuable.
Well, also, I would imagine that, Jerry had L.A. as the card to play for the longest and used that to get stadium upgrades and perks from the city.
Right.
L.A.'s not out there anymore as the threat.
Right, and there really isn't. I mean, what is the threat? San Diego, they don't have a stadium. That's why the Chargers aren't there. St. Louis, nobody's moving to St. Louis. No Fortune 500 companies are leaving Charlotte to move to St. Louis. That's an economic reality. So I don't know, I don't know what the market would be, what the alternative would be. I really don't. I mean, I guess, if the NFL needs its next stalking horse for these negotiations, East Bay, California would be the one. I mean, from a market standpoint, not having a team in San Francisco / Oakland, which I don't think you count Santa Clara as that market anymore. I mean, it's close and they carry the same name, but it's a different locality. That would be the one, but I don't think anybody's in any hurry to put another franchise in California at the moment.
All right, talking to Darren Ganner, Pro Football Talk, here on The Right Time. Now, also, this is interesting that as Jerry Richardson loses day-to-day control of his team, Jerry Richardson's famous favorite player, Thomas Davis, got a 2-game suspension for that hit on Devontae Adams. What do you think about that?
Recidivism. I mean, Thomas got knocked $48K for helmet-to-helmet earlier this year, and the next one, I mean, it's a classic example of examples being made. Juju was going to get hit after that Steelers-Bengals game the other week. I mean, you just knew coming out of that game the next guy was going to get run up the flagpole, and after that, because it was such an egregious, I mean, I don't think it was malicious. I've known Thomas as long as he's been playing in the NFL. He didn't win that Walter Payton Man of the Year award for no reason. He's a good man, but it was a dirty play. I mean, it was helmet to helmet. It was blatant. The guy didn't see it coming. It's like the rest of them. It was 2 games. I'm sure when Derek Brooks and James Thrash hear the appeal, it'll get reduced down to 1, and he'll be back out there on New Year's Eve against the Falcons.
Now, I just mentioned, Thomas Davis and his relationship with Jerry Richardson, but for other players on the team up until this point, what would you say was their perception of Jerry Richardson?
Different among different people. And I think that was one of the more frustrating things for me about yesterday's scene post-game is that Ron Rivera and all the players kept talking about all the nice things Jerry Richardson did for them. Well, yeah, because you're athletes and you're coaches and you can do something for him. It's all the other people in the building who can't do anything for him that I think that's the measure of your character. I mean, I'm one of those people, I judge you based on how you treat the elderly and waitresses and dogs and people who can't do anything for you. And all these players lining up to tell stories about how Jerry Richardson was so nice to them. Well, yeah. I mean, you're the one he would. And it's just, it's going to be frustrating to me at a certain level if they go on this kick and, get on the roll and want to win a Super Bowl from Mr. Richardson. Because frankly, based on the way he's behaved or is accused of behaving, he doesn't deserve that right now.
Well, how nervous also is the NFL about what they might find?
Oh, gotta be. I mean, do you remember the lawsuit against Jerry Jones that was filed in 2014 and eventually dismissed with all kinds of rude, nasty, ugly allegations and pictures to go with it? When's the last time we heard about that? I mean, the case was dismissed, but if that thing drops today with those pictures, do you know what the reaction would be? I know from talking to people around the league, Bo, that there were a lot of people relieved when this landed in Charlotte because it just means it didn't wash up on their shore first.
All right, that is Derek Gant. Check him out, cover the NFL for ProFootballTalk.com. Thanks so much, sir. I appreciate it.
You got it, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. You have a good one.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit Geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Apparently there was an outrageous situation that we had in the NFL this week, the sort of thing that happened that was so shocking and so stunning that even though you have heard a story like this one, it still managed to take people aback, that even though they have been in this situation before, that by now you should not be surprised maybe to hear these sorts of things. Football fans are still horrified to find out the truth and that things are still the way they were. And when I say that, I am obviously talking about what happened in Pittsburgh. Now, in Pittsburgh, we had a situation where the Steelers had thought they had caught a game-winning touchdown or a go-ahead touchdown. Roethlisberger threw the ball to Jesse James. Jesse James seemed to have caught the ball, then tried to stretch out, and then he wound up going to the ground, and he broke the plane with the ball in his hand, but he went to the ground, and when he went to the ground, the ball wobbled. When it hit the ground, it went to instant replay, and I watched that whole thing play out as it did, but I watched it with a very interesting perspective, which is I watched that all happen with somebody who had Pittsburgh plus 2.5. Now, it was a 3-point game at that moment, and he had Pittsburgh plus 2.5, and on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, the score at that moment was 27-24, and the over-under was set at 53. So I imagine some of you were also in this position, but the ball goes over the goal line. I watched my man go through the ecstasy that comes from gambling on these sorts of things, and then I watched him get on the phone with somebody, and they were talking about how that was, it was a touchdown and everything else, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, that's not a catch. It's not a catch. And, of course, now he's mad at me because he feel like I'm out here messing with his money. I'm giving him the pessimism that he don't want right then because he just experienced that euphoric release. I've seen this guy score a touchdown pass. I'm like, it's not a catch. Ball wobble when he hit the ground. It's not a catch. Jim Nance, Tony Romo, they on the television. They say they can't figure out why it is that they're doing all this, looking at it, why it's taking so long. And I'm like, it's because the ball hit the ground. It's not a catch. And then the man got on the microphone and he said that the catch did not survive the ground. And once he said that the catch did not survive the ground, that the ball then had to go back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then the Steelers got the ball back, and then they try to take it down the field or whatever it is. And Roethlisberger had one of those situations where the dude didn't get out of bounds. They needed to get up and call the play fast, but the problem was it was third down. And so there was really no point in spiking it, because if you spiked it, you basically needed to call the field goal kicker out there. Wasn't the way that you want to play it. So then Roethlisberger tried to do that thing where you fake the spike. Now it gets to be funny because I'm sitting there with my man who, again, has money on this game, and he's like, okay, they're going to go up here and spike it. And I looked at how they set up on the line. I'm like, he's not going to spike it. He's going to run a play. Just you watch. He's going to run a play. Ben Roethlisberger think he's fooling somebody, but he's not fooling me. He's going to run a play. Then next thing you know, ball snap. They run a play. Ben Roethlisberger's like, okay, so only one dude is running this pattern, and he's surrounded by 3 people. YOLO! And then he threw the ball in there, and then the ball wound up being intercepted, and then the game was there. Like, that was it. It was done. It was a wrap. Whoo! Shannon, that was a lot. Like, I feel like I just ran through that whole sequence right there with not taking any stop, and now I'm tired. I wasn't even one that was betting on the game. I wasn't there.
So now I can imagine how much angst there was for the one person who did have, Pittsburgh in the 2.5, right?
Yes. Well, here's what confuses me, though, because, of course, everybody's mad on this whole we don't know what a catch is thing. And I understand it to a degree, but, like, I go back and look at the Calvin Johnson play. I understand why they say that's not a catch. What they're saying is if you go to the ground and you can't get up with the ball, then you have not demonstrated control. Now, where the difference in the rule comes in is that if you handed the ball to somebody, if it was a running back and they just simply crossed the plane, you would have said that they established control already and then it was there. But the dude isn't a running back. It's a guy who caught the ball. And I personally did not think that he had established control in a way that I could be sure he had it until he got up with the ball. Like, I don't think that the rule is nearly as ridiculous as other people make it. I think my man Matt Zemek makes this point on Twitter where he's like, part of why we have this difficulty with this rule is what the NFL doesn't want is a lot of plays where guys like theoretically have control and then they get hit and then the fumble is forced and then you have a lot of change of possessions. Like, that's a big part of what it is that they don't want. But I thought it was obvious and immediate what it was that they were looking up, and I saw that ball wobble on the ground and I could not figure out why it was taking them so long to understand what the replay was, and maybe I was the one person in America who was neither shocked nor outraged by the fact that it got overturned. And I'm not even a Patriots fan. Anyway, here is Mike Tomlin talking about the play being overturned.
I don't have HD and all of that stuff, so it's really irrelevant how I feel about it, to be honest with you. It's not going to change the outcome of the game. I'm not going to cry over spilt milk and all of that crap and talk about replay. I ain't doing it.
They was about to get that win, Shannon. They have such a hard time against the Patriots. Did you see that stat where Tom Brady before this game hadn't thrown an interception against the Steelers since 2005?
He thought this was the one. You remember Tomlin last week, all excited about playing the Patriots, got the Patriots in the kitchen with the Patriots. Like, this was it. This was the game to turn everything around.
And I thought that they pretty thoroughly outplayed them for most of the game. What did happen, though, the Patriots went to the cheat code, right? And so there's all kinds of cheat codes that come, but if we stay on this in the context of football, I don't know if you remember playing Tecmo Super Bowl, but if you played Tecmo Super Bowl, all the plays would be the same and everything else, but as you got farther into the playoffs, man, things just got a whole lot harder. People played a whole lot better on defense. And so what I would wind up running as the cheat code was that one play, and I'm going to describe it because a whole lot of y'all already know that play. It would be 2 backs, 2 receivers. The receiver on the top of the screen would go up. It was like a skinny post. The tight end would run a crossing route. The receiver at the bottom would take it like toward the inside and then run. He's supposed to throw the ball over to his back shoulder, and the running backs would flare out from the backfield. And you just hope you have a mobile quarterback. You either throw it or you run and you try to go. And you just run that play all the way down the field because after that, none of your other plays are actually going to work. I felt like that's what the Patriots were doing, and it was basically the Bel Air offense, and they were just passing the ball to Gronk. Like, this is the thing that we can make happen. We're going to pass the ball to Gronk. And they just went down to, the Steelers decided they were going to man up on Gronk, even though there's not a single human being in the city of Pittsburgh who can check him. But they made that call. That's what they were going to do. And that is your reminder that, like, Gronk is that singular. To me, of all the players in the NFL rather, there is no player that is more obviously the greatest of all time at his position than Rob Gronkowski. Like, if you think that Tom Brady is the greatest of all time at quarterback, that's fine. I think there's a lot more room for argument about who's number 2 over there than whoever the hell is number 2 after Gronk. They made one of those. That's it. And that's what got him to win. But let's get back here for a second to Ben Roethlisberger and that play where he threw that interception, right? Because my thing was this. If you mad at the referees about that overturned call, okay, that's fine. But the referees got a story that you could believe in when they came and explained how it is that they did what they did. What the hell was Roethlisberger out here doing? Here's what he had to say about that interception.
To be real clear on that, is that Randy or Todd in your ear saying go for it instead of clock it?
Yes.
Which one?
Todd. Now, once again, that's coming from the head guy. Someone's telling them, but they, maybe they wanted a field goal. Maybe they wanted to tie it. I don't know, and so maybe that's on me. Maybe I should have just clocked it, whatever it is. I don't know. So we're not going to look back and second guess anything or anybody. We lost the game, and I threw a pick in the end zone at the end of the game to lose it.
Shannon, did he just say he wasn't going to second-guess anybody after he second-guessed people?
After he started naming names, then he says he's not going to second-guess anybody. That
Like, not only did he name names, he said Todd, and then he says, and that came from the head man. Like, he wanted to make sure that everybody understood I had a different idea. My idea was not the same as their idea. But none of that required you to throw the pick. None of that required you to see that guy who was covered that you had no chance of completing the pass to. None of it required you to do that. And then for the Steelers, like, I'm trying to think, they were about to come out of there with a victory. Instead, not only did they come out of there with a crushing defeat, but they also came out of there without Antonio Brown, who has a calf injury, and I guess will be back for the postseason. Yeesh, that's got to stink. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. You boys still calling in with your stories about why you quit playing football. Let's talk to Steve in Atlanta. Steve, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bo, what's going on?
What's going on, man?
Hey, so I played high school ball in California. I was an all-district second-team guy. I wasn't the best guy on the field, but I wasn't the worst guy on the field. So I chose to go to the military instead of going to college. I did special forces in the military. I got out. Got that vocational rehabilitation money from the military, decided, you know what, I think I'm going to play college ball. I got out of the military in the great state of Virginia and decided that I wanted to go into engineering, so I figured, what's the best engineering school in Virginia but Virginia Tech? Fortunately, I was going there during the same time that a certain member of a certain secondary out in Seattle was going there. And I was on the scout team as a fullback, went out, caught a pass in the flat, and got hit so hard that the rest of the story is coming to you from secondhand information because I don't remember any of it. I am told that I walked to the defensive huddle, put my hands on my knees, and said, that MFer can hit. And at that time, I was directed back to the offensive huddle. And the only other thing that I got to say is, if you could put a piece of paper between the ball and the pole, then obviously they didn't get that first down. The Cowboys robbed the Raiders again. And with that, I'll take it off the air.
Well, Steve, I appreciate the call. There it is. If you ever imagine what it felt like to get hit by Cam Chancellor, ask Steve, and Steve will tell you what other people told you about it.
Cam was out there hitting fullbacks?
Fullbacks. Was he an undersized fullback? Because that's the thing. And I think I'm about to be on the scout team as the undersized fullback. You got me. Hell no.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Just like our next guest, I sat in front of him at a meeting last week. Super Bowl champion Ryan Clark. Ryan, what was going on with the Steelers at the end of that game, man?
They got to find some way to play defense. I think I liked what they tried to do. They went man-to-man, press coverage, which is what you have to do against Tom Brady, disrupt him, get pressure with 4. But there at the end of the game, you see that he's targeting Rob Gronkowski every chance he gets. He feels like he's the one guy that can win against man-to-man. I like for them to do something different to take Tom Brady off of his first initial read, which was Rob Gronkowski. And then you go to the fake spike and the slant. I like going for it there, and especially after you feel like you've already won the game with the Jesse James touchdown that was overturned. And so I like going for it there, giving your team an opportunity to win the game. But once he gets through that first window and you can't fit the ball in on the slant, I think it would be better to throw it away, give yourself a field goal, and now you get a chance in overtime to at least compete to try to win the game.
Yeah, well, what did you think about him after the game making it clear to everyone that he wanted to spike it?
He's a bit of an oversharer. He kind of, passed the buck a little bit. I think in a situation like that, you just like to go with, you know what, that's the play we called. I was trying to win the game, and so be it. But, that's part of kind of who Ben is. He's a guy who's told us about injuries when that's something you say you really don't want to do. He's a guy who's very open and actually answers the questions with what he feels is the correct answer. And so you're going to have some of those situations that kind of make you shake your head, and that is one of them for sure.
We're talking to Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, were the Steelers in a position where they could have run an actual play rather than just the fake spike?
I'm not sure they could have gotten one called. Obviously, with the fake spike, everybody lined up. You can see Ben kind of giving Eli Rogers some type of signal. I'm not sure in that situation, unless you know what play you want from that position, or you call 2 plays before the last, I guess, repeat the next one. There were other things you could do, but actually get a new play call, get a play call that everybody understands and knows would have probably been a little bit harder, and you'd have been scared that you take too much time doing that and don't get a 4th down if you don't convert.
Now, I try not to get too caught up in, like, the narrative stuff about, momentum and the likes and everything else. But how important would it have been for the Steelers just to get a win over the Patriots? Because I can't remember the last time it happened.
It would have been huge. It would have been huge, just psychologically, especially with this group of men, with the team that they have. There's been so many defeats at the hand of Bill Belichick and at the hand of Tom Brady, that to actually get a win without your best player, without a guy who had an opportunity to be the MVP of the league in Antonio Brown, would have been huge psychologically. But also when you look at where the playoffs would have to go through, which would have been Heinz Field, or at least put the Steelers in the lead for it to be Heinz Field, it would have been the biggest win of the season if you can count a regular season win that important.
We're talking to Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, how much will it hurt them in these next 2 weeks? Like, is winning without Antonio Brown something they can do?
I mean, you got to look at who they're playing, right? I mean, you get the old Browns, you get the old Texans. Those are 2 teams who are very beatable. And listen, here's why, and I said it during the season when Martavis Bryant was asking to be traded. I said, you do not trade him. I said, I don't care if you got to sit him the rest of the year. You never know what can happen. You never know what you need. This dude is a physical stud, and now you need him. You see him last night making big catches on the fade route against the Patriots. You see him make a huge one-handed grab in the end zone. And so you see the talent. You see the things he can do. You add Juju Smith-Schuster to that. You have Le'Veon Bell. So you have a team that can go out and really compete not only against these 2 teams that they play, but compete against playoff team offensively with the firepower that they still have. So this team will be fine. I expect them to win these next 2 games and have themselves in position for a bye, which then allows Antonio Brown another week to recover without them playing.
All right, talking to Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, switching gears just a little bit, how about that Blake Bortles?
Hey, man, listen. I have been on record saying Blake Bortles is not very good. He's a little bit better than I thought. I'm not going to say he's great. He was playing against the Texans, but he finally threw the ball with some authority. Even in the last 2 weeks when he's actually played well, they've gotten out in front defensively. They've run the ball well. You didn't believe in the throws. Last week he was stepping into the throws, stepping up in the pocket, making smart decisions, throwing balls into tight spots and tight places. And that's what you need to see out of Blake Bortles to give you any confidence you can compete with the teams you'll play against in the playoffs. And so for them, it is definitely looking up, but I'm not ready to say that Blake Bortles is, as Leonard Fournette said, a top 5 quarterback in this league.
You sound like me talking about Kirk Cousins on this one. Like, yeah, okay, he ain't as bad as I thought he was, but y'all tripping. We're going to talk to Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Switching gears just a little bit, what do you think about the Thomas Davis hit getting a 2-game suspension?
I understand what the NFL is trying to do here. Here's a guy who was fined $48,000 early on in the year for a very similar hit, and now you are clearly helmet-to-helmet contacting Devontae Adams, a guy who we've seen be hit in compromising positions already, both last year and this. I don't mind the suspension in a vacuum. Okay, we're trying to legislate this play out of the game. I mind the suspension when Mike Evans got the same suspension for blindsiding Marshawn Lattimore after the play when he's fussing with Jameis Winston, when Gronkowski can do the people's elbow on Tre'Davious White and only get 1 game. I have an issue with it when Crabtree and Talib get into a fist fight in a game, pull off helmets, pull chains, and they only get 2. If all of these things that are away from football, outside of the game, are penalized in the same way or actually less than Thomas Davis, then I have an issue.
All right, talk to Ryan.
Okay. I understand player safety is important, but now you're starting to say that you're going to legislate things that are just football even more than other things that aren't.
All right, last question for Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Did guys around the league have any whispers about the Panthers and Jerry Richardson and what the environment was around that franchise?
No, I really haven't heard anything about the environment around the franchise, but I've dealt with him. We've dealt with him as the NFL PA. We know who Jerry Richardson is. The allegations that deal with racism and racial slurs do not surprise me. I'm not saying that the allegations of the way he treated women does surprise me, but that's not necessarily something I can say I saw from his behavior or I've been told from the way that he's interacted with people. But I definitely know that him using a racial slur is neither surprising to me or far off from what I thought he would do.
All right, that is Ryan Clark. Check him out covering the NFL for us here at ESPN. Stay warm, my man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Today is a day that my good buddy Shannon Penn has been looking forward to for a very long time. I feel like he's been really looking forward to this his whole life. If he didn't realize he's been looking forward to this his whole life. This is the day that Kobe Bryant is honored by the Lakers by having his jersey retired, not once, but twice, because he has two numbers, and so they are going to retire number 8 and number 24. Keep it in mind, Shannon, Willis Reed and Dick Barnett have to share number 15 for the Knicks, right? Earl Monroe and Dick Barnett. They had to share number 15 for the Knicks. Kobe gets two numbers for himself. How you feel about that?
I tried my best just now. I really did. I tried my best not to roll my eyes when you said he was having two numbers retired. I really did. But I guess it makes sense, though, right? To have both jerseys number retired.
Go ahead, Shannon.
That's all I have. I'm trying to find something nice to say about Kobe. Maybe I'll find it by the end of the segment.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about you, like being a cat from Virginia. I just know that you have to have all kinds of respect for the way that in the 2001 NBA Finals, Kobe put them clamps on Allen Iverson, shut that situation down, and helped the Lakers get to a 5-game win. I'm sure that all you boys in Virginia were very happy about that, right, Kobe?
Yeah,
Shannon?
Yeah, no one remembers the 2001 Finals games 2 through 5. The only thing we remember from 2001 is that one game, that one victorious game that the Sixers and Allen Iverson had with Iverson stepping over Toronto. That's all we remember. That's the most memorable moment of the 2001 Finals.
Yeah, but you remember the rest of it, Shannon. Mm-hmm. Being a big Kobe fan like you were, that's when you came to respect him as a top-notch defender.
Wait, who?
You're not a Kobe fan?
What? No, me? Oh, no. That's not gonna happen. I'm trying, but I really did. I knew we were gonna talk about Kobe today because they're retiring his jersey numbers, not 1 but 2. And I'm trying my best to find something positive. I am on the mission right now, and I will find something positive to talk about Kobe.
Well, go ahead and tell the people about the Twitter poll that you put up about Kobe.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you asked. We actually have 2 Twitter polls right now on the ESPN Radio Twitter account. The first being in the Kobe System commercial with Kanye West. Who was in on the joke? Kobe, Kanye, both or neither. If you remember, that was the more when Kanye kept saying, but I'm the best, and Kobe was like, more. Are you the same beast and a different animal, whatever?
Yes.
Kobe system thing he said. And then the other poll that we have on the ESPN Radio Twitter account, with the Lakers retiring the Black Mambas numbers 8 and 24 jerseys, who was the best snake of all time? What? He gave himself the nickname, right? The Black Mamba.
Snake shed it.
So, yeah, the snake gave himself his own nickname. So, the options were Kobe Bryant, Jake the Snake Roberts, Ken Stabler, or Cobra Commander. So, feel free to go on the ESPN Radio Twitter account and vote on who was the best snake ever.
Best what?
Right now, Kobe is leading the ESPN Radio Twitter poll at 33% when we asked who was the best snake of all time.
The best what, Shannon?
The best snake of all time.
Why snake?
Because he gave himself his own nickname. Can't do that in these streets. Sorry.
There's something so funny about when someone decides to call somebody else a snake. I don't know what it is about calling somebody a snake. That's so funny. You ever hear Poppy who calls LeBron and Wade the Snake Brothers? Well, the Snake Brothers.
This is a first for me, no.
Yeah, he says that Wade was a snake for the way he left Miami, and that LeBron was a snake for the way he left Miami. So they are the snake. He said the Warriors are the Splash Brothers. They are the Snake Brothers. Oh, man. So, Kobe, we got the things here. Everybody's doing that. What Kobe was better, the number 8 Kobe or the number 24 Kobe. And see, the tricky thing about the number 24 Kobe is the number 24 Kobe has that back end, like the bad Kobe years. And I feel like that kind of stunts what we're really talking about with this. I will tell you this, though, from looking at the differences between the number 8 Kobe and number 24 Kobe, So shooting efficiency, right? Number 8, Kobe, 45% from the field. Number 24, Kobe, 44% from the field. Number 8, Kobe, 33.6% from 3. Number 24, Kobe, 32.5% from 3. Shannon, I see that and I'm like, wow, I thought Kobe was a better shooter than that.
Kobe put up a lot of shots.
yeah, but I'm feeling like the combination of these two, I would have expected better than like low 30s from 3-point range. I would have thought that was what we have. Like, I'm going to be honest that I keep seeing all these numbers for Kobe with 8 and 24. And all it leads me to think is, wow, he's no LeBron James. That's right. I said it.
But, Bo, he's just ask a Kobe stan. He was the best player of his generation, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, there's no number that supports that fact, right? Like, if you like Kobe like that, it's cool, but there really is no statistical case to support that fact. You have the ring count. I guess you could call that a stat, but there's nothing else there. But see, the thing about Kobe is I feel like we lose the point when we kind of start talking about Kobe in comparison to LeBron or everybody else. I feel like you have to view Kobe in the context of the Lakers, and he is theirs, and they love him, and they have the right to absolutely love him, but they need to love him in a local sort of way, right? Like, he is the bridge between it's the Shaq Kobe era, but he's the bridge of that time. That low point they had in the middle, he got them back to a championship level of contention there. He has been the center of this for who knows how long, and in LA, they absolutely 100% love him to death. They love his dirty draws, and they are allowed to love Kobe's dirty draws, but just say that you love him. Don't try to force the rest of us into believing that he was a little better at this than he actually was. He is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He is, no question, absolutely 100% a Hall of Famer, and he is a Lakers legend. And I think all of those things are very good and very nice to say. And as I've said many times about Kobe, I respect Kobe. I respect the way that he has no fear of failure. I totally respect the fact that he is willing to deal with the consequences of whatever goes wrong because he's not afraid. And very few of us are like that. Shannon, you gonna say something nice about Kobe?
All right, I just thought about it. What nice thing I'm gonna say about Kobe Bryant. This is genuine, coming from the heart. Seriously, Bo, no, stop laughing. This is serious. I'm being real right now. The thing I admired most about Kobe Bryant is that I wish I worked at something as hard and as much as Kobe did with basketball. See?
There you go, Shannon.
That was nice, wasn't it? Like, worked as hard as putting up all them shots in the last game so you can put up, what did he score, 50 points or whatever it was?
I think it was 60.
So he scored 60, really?
I think it was 60.
Oh my gosh.
Never
mind.
I also think he took 60 shots.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All guests join us on the Shell Pizzo Performance Line, just like our next guest. Check him out at SBNation.com, EDSBS.com. The best college football writer in America. His name is Spencer Hall. Spencer, did you get caught in the Atlanta airport power shutdown?
I missed it by a day, which is good because I can't really emphasize enough the desperation of the situation. When I tell you this, it happened on a Sunday, and Chick-fil-A sprung into action. Let me remind you of the previous time when Chick-fil-A has sprung into action on a Sunday in the name of a community event. Never. Chick-fil-A's closed on Sundays. If you want to eat one, you got to buy it late, put it in your pocket, keep it warm there, and pull it out at 12:01 a.m. That's how bad it got.
I've been very curious about the discussions at Chick-fil-A behind this one. Like, did they have to call in an apology first?
They had to. They had to do this. They probably did this. They probably said, listen, we'll use the international date line to justify this. This is coming from the Hawaii office or from our Tokyo location. However, they had to do it in order to justify it because it was bad. There's people on planes for 8 hours. 8 hours from one fire that took out an entire airport. The Walking Dead really isn't so much about Atlanta after a zombie attack. It's about Atlanta after pretty much anything, like a simple event.
Well, let me tell you this, too. The thought of being on a plane for 8 hours almost guarantees I never fly coach again because I can't imagine how much I'd hate everyone around me after 8 hours on a plane and coach.
After 8 hours, your phone runs out of juice, right? Like, that's how bad it gets. The drink cart is empty after 8 hours. After 8 hours, you already know everyone's stories, and you're tired of them. Unless someone's got cards and money to put on the table, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of amusement there. it was not a good situation. And if it happened before the college football title game, it would be a very bad situation.
Also, is anybody crankier in that circumstance than the flight attendants?
Maybe the pilots, because I can't imagine the pilots enjoy that too much, because everyone else, they're used to going about 70 miles an hour on the road. Pilots, they're used to going about 500. So sitting still, I don't think they enjoyed it either.
We're talking to Spencer Hall, EDSBS.com, here on The Right Time. All right, are you ready, by the way, for the site that will be Georgia, Oklahoma at the Georgia, well, not the Georgia Dome. We don't do that anymore. Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, at the Benz. Yeah, that'd be Georgia and Oklahoma. And my favorite thing is this, that Oklahoma fans, they travel real well, right? They do. Oklahoma fans, too. There's a little bit of country mouse to them, so they end up some really interesting places in Atlanta, right? Like, should I go there? You know what that Uber driver's going to say? Do you want me to take you there? I don't know. You can go there if you want, and that's when you see Oklahoma hats in the weirdest places.
I'm thinking of all the places I want to see them in, and not sure how many of them I can say by name on the radio.
We're delving into like FCC territory. I will say this: if Georgia wins, then again for the second time this year, the most common name going into the Fulton County Jail's record, that guy's name Thad, right? A lot of ads, a lot of Brads, a lot of Chads, right? A lot of Thompsons, a lot of guys with last names for first names, right? And really nice button downs, just going in there because too full of that dog spirit, right? A little too rowdy.
We're talking to Spencer Hall of EDSBS.com here on The Right Time. Now the game itself. Can Georgia slow down Oklahoma's offense?
I don't think so. And that's fine, because I really doubt that Oklahoma is going to be able to put up much in the way of resistance to Georgia's rushing attack, right? And that to me says that when you look at, one defense isn't going to really put up much resistance against another, and the other one's just going to get run over. Okay, so what's our sort of linchpin here, right? What does this whole thing hinge on? And I think that's going to have to come down to Georgia's quarterback situation, right? At one point, they can't hide that. They have to rely on Jake Fromm, and they have to let him do some stuff, right? And that was, by the way, one thing that they did, pretty well in both Auburn games. I know, he got beat up in that first Auburn game. Jake Fromm played pretty well. He's going to have to play even better, and I think he'll have the chance to, because once they get that play-action game going down, I think anyone has seen Oklahoma secondary, there's some holes back there. They're going to be able to take some shots and do some big things. I think it's going to be a blowout. I really hope so, because I really don't want to watch another, 17-10 game in one of these. Nope, I want it 42-38 running up and down the field, and whoever gets the ball last wins. If that's Baker Mayfield, by the way, game over, because I just trust Baker Mayfield to either do what he's supposed to do, i.e. get them in the end zone, or do something spectacularly bad. Either way, that's entertainment.
Well, how did Georgia go from having Jacob Eason last year and thinking a quarterback of the future to now where they have a quarterback that needs to be hidden, but it's not Jacob Eason?
Well, yeah, and by the way, I don't think he needs to be hidden, right? They've been pretty conservative with him, and I think that's a smart thing to do. He's really good, man. He's phenomenal. He's good enough to have unseated Eason, right, after Eason's injury earlier this year, and Eason never saw the starting gig again. That's how good Fromm was, right? And the most impressive thing when you watch Fromm, by the way, the little things like checks and checking the runs and getting his protections right and not being stupid, right? You don't be careless. When you're a quarterback, and you're a first-year starter, the most important thing you can do is not mess up. And Fromm was really good at not messing up, but he's much better than that. I don't want to poor mouth him. I think he's exceptional. The guy who's really going to make your eyes boggle, though, he's wearing crimson and cream on the other side. It's Baker Mayfield.
Also, by the way, Kirby Smart has become the new Kevin Sumlin. Quarterbacks, I'll take them all. They got another one coming next year.
Oh, sure. Listen, man, the transfer quarterback, everyone's friend in college football now. If we really loosened up those transfer rules, we could have some proper charming vagabonds, right? Starting 1 year here, starting 1 year at another, just taking a tour, like a little sort of study abroad thing.
We're talking to Spencer Hall, EDSBS.com here on The Right Time. All right, Clemson, Alabama. Is it weird feeling like, I don't think Alabama can pull this one off?
It's a little weird feeling that way. I think it also feels weird to me because, I don't feel like Clemson's there yet. I think defensively they're there, right? But the ceiling for Kelly Bryant at quarterback is much higher than what he's played at this year, right? Like, he's just getting started, and they're already pretty good. Like, it's weird seeing two teams where you go, I already want to see next year, right? I feel like both of these teams are here a year early because of the massive amount of talent that they have on the roster, right? So I feel like that'll be the less satisfying game because I don't think either of these teams are sort of in peak condition. I don't think that they're necessarily ready or the best versions of those teams. And it is very weird to say that about Alabama, right? And I know Alabama fans put this on the offensive coordinator, Brian Double, first. Who really knows who the offensive coordinator is at Alabama, right? Like, they have a firm. That's a firm. That's like blaming Warren Buffett for something. You're like, okay, listen, Warren Buffett's head of a corporation. Nick Saban is head of a corporation, and that is a division in that corporation. So who knows, really, who's responsible for some of the offensive foibles? Two, I know a lot of people in Alabama want to put it on Jalen Hurts, and they want to say, oh, listen, man, that guy's like just not getting it done at quarterback. It's really not fair to take a quarterback who you let throw like 15 times max, get behind in a game and say, well, go out there and throw it 40 times. Get us back in the game, Jalen. Come on. That's not what you've done as a mode, as a team. That's not what you've done all year. It's really unfair to get in that situation and immediately look at that guy and go, well, I don't know, make something happen, right? He's not Baker Mayfield, and he hasn't been coached to be Baker Mayfield, right? Not yet, at least.
Well, the one good thing for Alabama is I don't think anybody's going to benefit more from rest, right? From having guys get healed up.
Oh, no. And that's another thing. The linebacking court, took a shellacking with injury. And if you look at the games that they struggled in, right, if you look at them losing to Auburn, a lot of those plays happened because of falling for shifts, motions, various kind of fakes that really got linebackers moving one way, and then they ran through that hole on the other side. That doesn't happen when you have experience. That doesn't happen when you have a healthy Alabama linebacking court. So they'll benefit from that, right? If this ends up being a low-scoring game, Alabama will be totally happy with that all day long. If it starts getting up into like the 20s and 30s, that's when they start getting nervous.
All right, that is Spencer Hall. Check him out, SBNation.com, EDSBS.com. Thanks so much, my man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.